The studio lights glowed warm and familiar as Kelly Clarkson welcomed Chris Daughtry onto her show, the audience cheering loudly at the reunion of two American Idol legends. The applause carried a nostalgic energy, the kind that comes from viewers who felt like they had grown up watching both of them chase the same dream on the same stage years ago. Kelly's smile was wide and genuine as she stood to greet him, pulling him into a friendly hug that felt rehearsed only by years of shared history rather than television blocking. Chris smiled back, waving to the crowd, his posture relaxed, his shoulders loose, as if he were stepping into a comfortable memory rather than a live broadcast. At first, the conversation flowed easily. They joked about their early audition days, the awkward outfits, the nerves, the strange shock of suddenly being recognized at grocery stores. Kelly laughed openly, slapping the arm of her chair as Chris recalled sleeping on borrowed couches during tour stops, surviving on fast food and adrenaline. The audience loved it. Every laugh cue landed perfectly, every reaction shot captured warmth and ease. From the outside, it looked like a flawless segment, two successful artists reminiscing about the messy road to fame. But beneath the smiles, something subtle shifted. Kelly leaned back in her chair and casually mentioned how unpredictable success can be after a talent show, how winning doesn't always guarantee longevity and losing doesn't always mean failure. It sounded harmless, even thoughtful. She framed it as perspective, as wisdom gained from years in the industry. Then she added, lightly, that sometimes not winning can even be a blessing, joking that it might push someone harder just to prove a point. The audience chuckled. Chris did too, at first. But his laughter came a second too late, softer than before. His fingers tightened briefly around the mug in his hand. Kelly, sensing nothing wrong, continued, referencing how people still debate winners and runners-up from their season, how fans love ranking outcomes years later. She meant it as trivia, as shared cultural memory. To her, it was part of the fun. To Chris, it felt different. For years, he had carried that label, runner-up, almost, second place, like a shadow that followed him into interviews, reviews, and introductions. Even after platinum records and sold-out tours, someone would always bring it up, always frame his success as an exception, a surprise. As Kelly spoke, those memories resurfaced, journalists asking if losing fueled his ambition, critics implying his career was an accident rather than earned. He took a breath, steadying himself, reminding himself this was a friendly space. When he spoke, his voice was calm, measured. He explained how the experience shaped him, how being so close to winning and not crossing that final line had affected his confidence at first. He talked about the pressure of proving he belonged, of showing he wasn't just the guy who didn't win. The audience quieted, sensing the tonal shift. This was no longer playful nostalgia, it was personal truth. Kelly nodded, listening, but there was a flicker of surprise in her eyes. She hadn't expected the conversation to turn so serious. Trying to keep the mood from dipping too far, she offered a light comment about how fans love an underdog story, how America roots for resilience. She smiled as she said it, hoping to pull things back into safer territory. The word underdog landed wrong. Chris paused. The silence stretched just a beat too long for daytime television. He leaned forward slightly, his elbows resting on his knees, eyes focused not on Kelly but somewhere past the cameras, as if he were choosing his next words carefully. When he spoke again, his tone was still, controlled, but the edge was undeniable. He said that while underdog stories sound inspiring, they can also be exhausting to live inside. That constantly being framed as someone who had to overcome, not winning took away from the actual work, the years of grinding, writing, touring, failing, and trying again. The audience didn't clap. They didn't laugh either. They simply listened. Kelly shifted in her chair, her smile fading into something more thoughtful. She attempted to clarify, saying she never meant to minimize his success, that she admired what he built. She added a quick joke about daytime TV always loving a neat narrative, hoping humor would soften the moment. But the joke hung in the air, unclaimed. The band, sensing uncertainty, stopped playing their background cues altogether. Chris's jaw tightened. He nodded slowly, acknowledging her words, but his eyes showed fatigue more than anger. He explained that some experiences, especially the ones that cut deep, aren't great material for quick jokes or tidy segments. He said it wasn't about blame, but about respect. About understanding that what looks like a talking point on a cue card might represent years of frustration for someone else. The room felt smaller now, the walls closer, the bright lights harsher. Producers shifted behind the cameras. A few audience members exchanged glances, unsure how to react. Kelly opened her mouth to respond, then closed it, realizing too late that this wasn't a moment that could be steered back on track with charm alone. Chris sat back, exhaling quietly. His expression wasn't hostile, but it was firm, resolved. The easy nostalgia from minutes earlier felt like it belonged to a different show entirely. As the silence lingered, it became clear that something had changed, not just in the conversation, but in Chris himself. He had said what he needed to say, and no amount of studio applause or smooth transitions could undo it. And that was when everyone watching could sense it. This interview was no longer following the script.